Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Xbox 360 and see if this particular gaming console is still worth buying in 2024. Now, the thing I'll definitely tell you about the Xbox 360 is that this was probably one of the best Xboxes that Microsoft has ever made. But it's also one of the best gaming consoles ever made. It was a very impactful time, I would say, for the most part with this particular gaming console, because there was just so much going on. We had the Nintendo Wii during this time, we had the PlayStation 3, and then we had these Xbox 360s, which were very impressive, and I was very, very happy with it at that time. So I will tell you, although this console may not necessarily, it's worth buying, but it may not be worth buying for everyone, because considering there's emulators out there and there's tons and tons of ways to even play Xbox 360 games nowadays. I will tell you, for the most part, I love the Xbox 360. I think whether you're a collector or even if you're just a casual gamer, I think these particular consoles are still worth buying, and we'll talk about that throughout this whole entire video. Now, the cool thing about the Xbox 360 during that time was that you were getting a very interesting type of layout for this type of device. So first of all, from the original Xbox to this one, there was a pretty big difference, I would say, from the way this particular device looked like before to now. So with the original Xbox, it looked good, it didn't look ugly. It had a very unique design structure, but you could tell over time that the thing was going to age maybe not the best. I looked at consoles like the PlayStation 2 of that time, even the GameCube, like certain models of the GameCube, like different colors, and you could see how those things would age pretty well. The Xbox was a very bold design at that time, and I do think it was a very cool thing that Microsoft did, but you do have to kind of remember that when you're making decisions like that, it may give you a little bit of a different type of experience when it kind of came down to it. So personally for me, that's kind of just one of those things to keep in mind, but beyond that, I still look at a device like the Xbox 3, the original Xbox is looking beautiful, but the Xbox 360 with its, removable plate on the front, with its design, it looked very beautiful. I was a very, very big fan of the way this Xbox looked, and I actually had an Xbox for a brief period of time. My certain Xbox had the red ring of death, which is very annoying, but even when you look at the Xbox 360 in 2024, it still actually looks like a pretty good looking console. Like, you do have to kind of give it some, benefit of the doubt from that particular perspective. You're getting that disc tray on the front, which again is still pretty good. There's not too much to kind of complain about there. You're getting your game card slots, so you could easily just go ahead and kind of take out a game card slot or expand your particular game that way if you want to. You're also getting your power button on the front. And at the bottom, this was something I liked a lot about the Xbox 360, is that you did actually have that little flap at the very front, which basically gave you 2 more USB ports. So this was something that was very, very cool that I actually liked a lot about this particular console, because with those USB ports, what you could do is that you could just go through and basically just plug in your particular, stuff if you want to. You could just go and do really whatever you want to with those ports. If you wanted to have accessories, any sort of accessories at all, including controllers that you had to wire in, you could easily just wire them in just like that. And that was actually a very, very cool thing going on for that particular gaming console at that time. So personally for me, that definitely got a thumbs up for me there, because it was just such a cool thing to be able to do on that particular gaming console during that moment. Now, on top of that, another very big thing going on here would basically be with that, storage expansion at the very top. So you could actually go through and just expand the storage if you want to from the very top of this particular console. And I do think that was another very cool thing going on here too. You could just grab that storage slot, be able to expand your storage, and realistically do whatever you want to from that particular side. And I do think this in and of itself was another very, very big and cool thing going on for this particular phone. So I do think personally for me, this in and of itself was another very nice thing going on for this particular console. So like I said, personally for me, if I'm going through and if I'm using this type of device, I love being able to go through and just kind of use it whichever way I want to. And you could expand the storage, you can keep the storage if you want to. And I do think this in and of itself was another very, very big thing going on for this particular console at that time. On the backside, from a port selection, you're getting your standard ports. So you were getting your, HDMI port on the backside, which again, there's not really that much to complain about there. It's kind of what you'd expect. On top of that, you were getting your AV adapter, depending on which type of way you want to. If you want to do like a AV cable socket, you could do it that way. You're getting your AC adapter, your power supply, and then you're getting another Ethernet port and a USB port on the backside of this particular console as well, which I do think that in and of itself, again, was another very cool thing going on here. And once again, I really like having that type of capability, just being able to go through and essentially just, use that USB port on the back or on the front side and have a little bit more capability when it came down to there. So that kind of stuff I really like a lot. And when I look at this console for the most part, yeah, it may not be like the best looking console of all time for, today's standards. I think the Xbox One, probably the One S, is probably the best looking one in my opinion. This one looks very, very good. And there really isn't that much to complain about here from the design standpoint. But you're not really here to listen to just how this console holds up from the exterior and from an accessory standpoint. The gaming library of the Xbox 360 is still very, very competitive to what you're getting nowadays. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say it's competitive. Clearly the Xbox Series X, even the Xbox One X, and One in general, are giving you much better games and a much better experience in almost every single way than something like the, Xbox, 360 from so many years ago. But the big thing you have to keep in mind with the Xbox 360 is that a lot of these games originated on these types of consoles. I mean, when you look at something like, there were just so many games available for the Xbox 360 that if you look at like the best-selling games of this particular console, it's actually pretty insane. First of all, the best one, or one of the biggest ones, you were getting Kinect, which was like kind of a built-in one. Grand Theft Auto 5 is still available on the Xbox 360. This in and of itself is a game, graphics-wise, it may not be the best anymore on the 360 in general, but it's still a very good game. There's still, GTA 5 is still a game that's being made. So the fact that this game is available on here is pretty crazy. It was the best-selling game on this particular console, even though it came out in 2013. It was actually pretty funny. You were still getting Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Tons of Call of Duties came out for this console. You were getting Halo 3 on this particular console as well, which again, that game, when you still look at the graphics of that game, it may not be the best as the current, Halos, but I will tell you, it is still very impressive, the graphic quality behind that type of console. And I'm very happy, like I said before, about how good of a job, Microsoft did with that game. That was a Microsoft-made game, basically. And with that Halo franchise, because it is like a first-party game, they just knock it out of the park almost every single time. And with Halo 3, I'm a very, very big fan of the way that particular, game actually held up from that particular perspective. You're also getting Grand Theft Auto 4. You're getting Halo Reach here too, which was interesting. Gears of War came out for this thing. So many games. The Forzas came out for this particular console as well. But the big thing that you have to keep in mind is that with this particular console, it was also backwards compatible with original Xbox games. So that's also another very big thing to kind of keep in mind here too, that if you're going through and if you're actually, buying this particular device, you're actually getting that type of capability here of essentially being able to go through and, play these things, which I think in and of itself was another very, very cool thing going on for this particular console. And if I'm going through and buying a game, I definitely like having the type of console here that you can just keep playing these games over and over and over again, which was actually very cool. So personally for me, I'm a very, very big fan of this particular console. When I look at this particular device, I think that, if I'm going through and buying a sort of a device, I do think Microsoft did a really, really good, job with this particular device. Is it perfect? Not really. There's definitely way better devices out there. But I do think for the most part, this particular console is still worth buying. I think there's still a lot of capability here. And I do think there's a lot of reasons why you should or you could go ahead and buy a game like this, or buy a gaming console like this. There's tons of capability. There's a lot of, features with this type of device. And I'm still a very big, fan of this console. Is it perfect? No, but I do think if you're buying a sort of, any sort of game out there or any gaming console, you like being able to, play these games on the original hardware that they came out with. And this console is no exception. It's right up there. It's a very, very good gaming console. I like it a lot. And I still think it's completely worth buying for sure. If you're a collector or if you want to buy, first party games or whatever, it's available here for you. So that pretty much covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.